First of all, I wanted to speak to the elderly and all over the world, all over the world. Yes, you're important, as I told you. Yes, there's your importance. That's your pension. That's all you've got. Well, they can't take it away from you. They'll try or whatever. But with that, whatever you choose to buy, whether it's dearer or not, if anything's under threat regarding branch economy in Scotland, and I'm dealing with Scotland, really, as far as the rest of the world's concerned, of course I'm interested, of course, but Scotland is that's it. The bottom line, even to go and look up the Treaty of Arbroath, to just check, because I really don't care how many people are going to be there for freedom, but I know that I'm going to be there, and if I'm the only one and I'm elderly, I don't give a tuppenny damn. I really don't. A tinker's curse, whatever. I'm going to be at the border, and they can do what they like, and they can lock me up. Oh, listen, don't tell me what they've no done to me. But that's the road for people that are fifth columnists, that say they're Scottish, they're born up here, but they've got no semblance of care for anything in Scotland at all. And we're really badly depleted. Badly depleted. It's really, really so bad. You have to go right back to St Kilda, and the fact that they had to leave the island. Why? Well, they had to leave because their job was upholstery, and that was it. There's many reasons about St Kilda, but that's that. And if we weren't a strategic country in the world, pivotal, without a shadow of a doubt about that, why would they have put a gun placement on there during the First World War? And why are they always over there? Because these are our territorial waters, and that is the limit. And all the other little islands, and the way that we love people. I don't know. When you get off the plane at, say, Egypt, when you get off the plane there and they order you off and they're all brusque, etc., over here for the English or whatever, and my auntie says, Scottish. I've got a British passport, but I'm not English, I'm Scottish. And they all went, ah! All over the world, that's how we're received. Because what we have in engineering, etc., the trains in India, hello, they've just closed the last place here. We've got very few foundries, etc., and the clearances, the famine in Ireland, it was the same here with the potatoes. And they just shipped us abroad, all over the world. And, it's a strange time that we're living in. And that's the bottom line. We've actually managed to reach that. So the advice that I've got for the elderly is anybody that has an operation in hospital afterwards, even if they're young people, that's like a pilonidal sinus or whatever, even after childbirth, where there's problems there, you feel as though an umbrella was put up and then opened up, pulled down, and there's this poor wee thing there, and look at the state of you. And it's the same with the elderly. My mother used to say, because when I went to see her in the hospital after she did a major operation, she was so constipated, dreadful, and I mean, nowadays nursing, it's not what it was, look, but don't worry about it, we'll get it back. The main thing is we're still alive for a reason or whatever, and we've got to connect up with these broken biscuits, and they'll help us with the wherewithal. Everybody will help, everybody that wants to do their job, so I'll be researching all these things. And when people use medicines to purge themselves, if you're elderly and you're going out, You can't go out till your bowel is emptied. If you do that, you're going to end up in trouble. And you can't take medicines or whatever, to help you along the way. The main thing is you've got to drink against the thirst. You need to do that from around about 50s, etc. Because one of the first things is dehydration. Dehydration's something dreadful. For the elderly, of course it is. You're all over the place. You don't know what's wrong with you. So as I say, I'll have lists of all these things. And now that I've organised this as my new free magazine, Carnegie, you go to the library, you can download anything, get it printed off. Gosh, this is a couple of pennies, so all you need to do is have my website. I'll have all this stuff on my website free for you, okay? So that, and also for the young people, the nappies, etc. I've got everything, got bits and pieces to show you. And the nappies, don't worry about anything. The advice that I gave you, so far so good. And I'll be back, and it'll be a case of just for the hawker harvesters, the elderly, broken biscuits and broken biscuits. That'll be the advice that goes out. And I wanted to talk about men, and Mr. Kersland was impressed to say about, we'll need to do something about the judiciary. Of course we have to. But I think first and foremost, considering the stramash in Parliament regarding women saying that men were sexually, propositioning them, or whatever, we have to do something about that. It's a very complicated thing, but then again, it's not a complicated thing. I think it says in the Bible, what causes wars, and also Zeretse Kwama of Bechuanaland, and then it became it got another name, but he said you're not free unless you have got a charge of your emotions, and the driving emotions are, well, you need to eat to live, and you want to procreate, so all of these appetites, if you're not in command of them, then you can't really say that you're free. I think too, boxing is a way that men, if they can handle themselves, then that means they're not afraid of anybody, and they don't need knives. And there's also young people actually going around, because there's a lot of stabbing just now, and they're telling them to don't take the knife out. They show you the way that you maintain that until somebody comes, because if you do that, they're going to bleed out. So all of these things, they're there, but because we can't connect up with anything, and because the young can't connect up, and because of everything else, it means that you give up. And the fact that nobody gets any cancer care, everything, suicide has overtaken everything. And the main reason about suicide is that, who's bothering about you? And also, the harassment on the phone from people for money or whatever. And if you get ill and you were attending to things, a wee £2 there or 2 there, and they're harassing you on the phone, they're not getting paid very much. And if they don't do that, they don't have a job. So I used to be on the phone, and I would say to all of the Glasgow District Council, and well, that's great. I said, Tommy Sheridan, come the revolution, he's going to come up and line you all up and take you all away, and of course they would say I was mad. Maybe I am. Maybe I am. I'm not that daft, okay? So as I say to you, you've got your pension and that, and just rest easy and get all the other instructions to you. There will be pilot schemes where the district nurse will be taking your number, etc. Somebody will get in touch. We've got to get you the very best of food. So as I say, if you're going to be paying more, whatever, everything will get sorted out. don't fash yourself. Everything will be all right. Okay, so I want to talk about the men and the fact that they have such a drive, and if they're in business and overachievers, or if they're politicians, if they're in banking and they're in charge of things, they can't do it without getting somebody into a cupboard. They can't do it without dragging some poor unsuspecting maid in, raping her, throwing her away, and then when they're headhunted to get them out of here and in America, they've got these parties, and they're putting them into concrete because there's so many men on them, and the state that they're in, and they pass out and die with the drugs and everything. So all over America, they're all in concrete. So that makes things pretty difficult for men, and what we need to do is have some kind of law whereby if you're in politics or business, that there is a line whereby somebody can ask for an inquiry, and that has to be done properly and legally, has to be tested out, has to go to committees to make sure that we get it absolutely right, because there's too much work to be done with the bloody carry on like that stuff. So as I say, I'll be, attending to that. But Mr. Kersland was complaining about that, and I think that really is the first one that we'll attempt, and I thank you all for listening to me, and I'll tell you a wee story. Of course, Glasgow, they put us all out to Drumchapel without any kind of facilities. Even the peel in Drumchapel, they knocked it down. Everything that was absolutely precious and old, from the past. We've got Sweet Fanny Adams left everywhere, and we've got no money to repair it or keep it going. And on the 105 bus, and my mother's there, and she's a bar for the House of Fraser, so she's got a phone, and she's got the Astrakhan, the 3/4 length, and the hat. And the hat's, she didn't buy it in any of these shops. She got it in Trerond or something anyway, but it was down feathers, and she was daft about hats, like Mrs. Miniver, Every time she always had to have a hat, and it always blew off when we were coming up Ann Street Bray and over the canal to go home after church, and we had to get muddy ore out for Spears Wharf at the top with his big hook and get it, because it was a wee down there. And so we're on the bus going home and sitting in the front, and she's saying, "Listen to that, just listen to that up there, dreadful, dreadful, dreadful." And she says, and they're all, and they were singing, and because they're Scots and they're singing, their feet are gone, their hands are gone, dee-dum dum dum dee-dum dum dum, and they were all singing, "Way her cheeks sae red, sae rosy, her eyes sae bonny blue, prancing, romancing, she speared me through and through. She fairly won my fancy, stole awa my heart, driving into Glasgow to my sour milk get. Hey!" And the feet were gone. And the first one to fall down the stairs was my father. And he never was allowed to drink except it was a Masonic funeral, whatever it was. Oh, and he was blotto. And she's away up Peel Road. She's away up Pilton Road. And he's shouting after her, "It's all right, Sarah, it's all right. I only pay the rent. I only pay the rent." There you are. There's a wee story about my daddy and my mammy. And drink and everything. And being Scottish and dancing. And full of the most incredible stuff.